Hey Glenn, Peoples here, the People's Carpenter. It's a lovely autumn day. The sun is right in my eyes. The morning sun. So we're moving house. Here we are, to a better place in a number of ways. You'll see all those ways going forward. One of them is workshop space, another is just space generally. What that means is that there are some jobs around this place to get done. And you know, being a woodworker and carpenter, it's kind of nice to be able to work on cute little projects. But one of the extra cool things, I think generally, about getting into any particular, not really, is it a trade? Or kind of a trade, but it's only really a trade if you're doing it for a living. Any particular skill set involving tools like this is that, well, I think you become more confident generally. I have anyway. And so when there are jobs that need doing, my first thought is not now always, well, I have to pay someone to do that. I mean, sometimes I do because stuff takes time and we've all got lots to do. But sometimes when you're like, oh, I really don't want to spend that money, you think to yourself, well, I know how to use tools. Maybe I could do this. And that's kind of how I got into a lot of the things that I do. Like, I've built a couple of sheds now just because I didn't want to pay someone to build a shed. So I watched a YouTube video about shed building. I thought I could do that, and so I did, and I've made 2 now. And now I'm in that situation again. There are some improvements, well, not improvements, some repairs, I suppose, that I want to make to this workshop. You can see there what I'm talking about, that black paper. So at quite a few points in the roof you can see where the framing has been wet. You can see some drips that have fallen on various parts of the workshop that I've just had to dry up. And there are leaks in the roof. There are no holes in the cladding, but there are holes because the old roofing nails are popping out, and it's obviously been happening for a little while. And, well, the waterproofing, this builder's paper, which is bituminous paper, it's kind of almost sticky, it's got sort of a tar on it. It's obviously very old, and it's been deteriorating, and it's sort of falling out. And it's not in very good shape. Shortly before I started this channel, there was an extension done onto the workshop. So all that part is flawless. It's in great condition. But this old part, well, it's a bit rubbish. It's a bit rubbish. And to remedy this properly, there's really only one thing for it. So here's the old roof, and that's the problem that I'm dealing with. You can see that old nail is popping out. Roofing was once done with these nails, with these lead heads on them, and the lead head covered over the hole to stop water getting in, and they generally worked okay, but because they're nails and they have a plain shank, no thread to hold them in, I'll show you that later, over time they do work their way out, and when they do, water gets in. Now, I'm just observing this by standing up on a ladder. A ladder wouldn't really be an ideal way to do this job, and it's just generally safer rather than using a ladder to use scaffolding. Now, the previous owners of this property, because it's a really tall house, it's only a single story, but it's really high up, which is nice. It's an old villa. They've left these scaffolding bits here. Now, these are the ends of the scaffolding, and they're fine, but there's nothing to go between them, which is annoying. You can see that something would have gone onto the bolts here between them, all the bracing, and I don't have those anymore, and those are very old anyway. So what I've done is I have gone ahead and bought a new portable scaffold. Not a very expensive one, not quite as high as the roof, but it will enable me to step up onto the roof easily, and it'll be safer basically. Yeah, so as I think I mentioned it earlier, not as tall as the roof, but you know, it's really close. I can step up from the scaffold onto the roof pretty easily and safely. See, this isn't really a job that I did because I wanted to. It's a job that I'm doing because I think I should. I'm pretty sure I have everything I need now. So the materials will be this wire mesh that will go under the paper and support it. And then the paper itself, I still had a little bit left over from when I did some previous jobs, including that shed. And then of course the roofing screws themselves. Bought a big tub of them because I'm going to need them at the new place that we're going to. I have to do the same thing there, replace the nails with screws, and for some reason I already had a small pack, so I'll use that up first. They're physically identical. And the tools, well, I bought this for this job actually. It's a nail puller, nail remover, what do they call it? Well, they don't really have a name on here. No, made by Ox, but there are various types of nail removing devices on it. So that's cool. As well as these, just in case I manage to break the heads off the nails using that, then I can grip the nail and tug it out. I'd rather not do that. Some cutters for the wire mesh, cutters for the paper, staple gun, and some staples for putting the wire mesh on. Oh, that's what I will need. I've got some wood staples as well for holding the wire mesh on, and I'll need my hammer for attaching those. And of course my impact driver and a hex bit for putting the bolts in. Oh, and this, a piece of plywood. There are a couple of ways of safely removing these nails without damaging the corrugated profile. This is one of them. I'll show you how that's done. Oh, and this, a tape measure. I think it would be difficult to get these large rolls up onto the roof. I will be having a small amount of assistance from my wife, but I'll mostly be working alone. And it'll probably be easier to cut the pieces down here on the ground and then just take the pieces up one at a time rather than try and maneuver the whole roll. So I'm just in the garage observing that which I am replacing, and I can see what they've done here is they've rolled the black paper lengthwise along the garage, which means that they can just roll it on the battens, which would be really useful. An easier way to install this stuff, but I'm not going to do it that way, and that's because that would mean that I have to lift off the metal sheets all the way along the garage. And this is my first time doing this, so I'm going to be quite slow, which means that all of this will be exposed for quite some time. The weather this weekend indicates that there will be some cloud but no rain, but you never trust the weather 100%. So what I'm going to do instead is put both the wire netting and the paper that-a-ways, which means putting more pieces on. It will be a little bit more time consuming putting that stuff on, because I'll have to cut more pieces, but you know, I've just told you why. Right, I thought I would, because it's going to be difficult to do much recording while I'm actually doing the work on the roof. So I'll give you a demonstration of how I intend on approaching these nails. I've never used this before, but it looks relatively straightforward. So I want to just depress the corrugate slightly so I can get this under it. Okay. Now, the risk with using a tool like this or a claw hammer is that as you lever the nail up, you'll dent the corrugate. And there are a couple of approaches you can take. One is to put a rod or a pipe or something in that valley and lever it up like that, and that works fine. This is another way where what you're really doing is distributing the force across a few ridges, and so you're not going to dent any one of them, hopefully. Okay, so that's looking good. I had these handy just in case I needed them, but I think I'll be okay. I've injured my left shoulder, so I'm going to have to try to do everything with my right hand. Okay. And the reason I was able to do that is that this is a nail with a plain shank, which is why we're in this trouble to begin with. One cool feature of this nail pulling tool is this. Looks like a hammerhead, as though you meant to use it to hit nails, but not quite. It's when you're trying to get this set of claws under a nail. Like so. Now I've only got one hand. Hang on. Here we go. Some of the nails are tricky to come out, like the one I showed you where I had to do some hammering, but most of them are really easy, like easier than I would want nails on my roof to be. Like this, for example, I can tell, or at least I think, now I've said it, it's going to be difficult, but I don't think so. See that? Just one push and the whole thing came out. And lots of them are like that. So I'm glad we don't use these anymore, and there's a very good reason for it. Because of the time of year it is, June, winter here in New Zealand, it's getting kind of dark. It doesn't actually look dark on my phone screen, but it's getting quite dark here. So I should go inside. I prefer summer. The weather is better than forecast today, which is nice. You can see the mountains, the Tararua ranges as they are called. No snow on them today. Yeah. Alright, back into it. I'm not really all that concerned about there being some ants in my workshop, but there you go, there are some ants just on the top. There's all the stuff that's being stored in those raftery things over there. I don't know if they're quite rafters, but more or less. Including some random things. I found a paint roller and an ice hockey stick. I've had to pull, I didn't have to, but I decided to pull a few of these out. The paper was nailed on with those roofing nails, which is kind of weird, but whatever, I pulled some of those out. Okay, Let's get the wire mesh on this section. That's starting to feel like progress now. Actually getting the waterproofing on, which was the whole point of this. Well, the whole point of taking the roofing sheets off. See, the sun is already just about to go over the horizon. It's only 4:30 p.m. and it's not even the shortest day yet. See, I mean, how much better does that look? How much better? I mean, you might be wondering why I'm doing this. You know, we're selling the house. I'm leaving this workshop, and I was kind of, I don't know, not overly, but I was a little bit disappointed that the fellow who used to do his work in this workshop was okay selling the place to me in this state, because this is more or less the state that it was in when we bought this house. The roof leaked. The weatherproofing was deteriorated because of this issue with the nails, and you know, he would have been aware that this needed doing. Part of me understands, look, you don't want to do a job unless it's really necessary, but I don't know, it feels kind of necessary to me. It feels like, I don't know, I would have wanted him to do this for me, and I just feel better about selling somebody this place when the garage is in good shape like this. I do, and it really is. Now it looks so much better. I want to keep it. Not quite, but yeah. Did you know that things don't always go the way you want? We hadn't been forecast to get rain for the rest of this week, but that's changed, and now we do have, you can't really see it, but it is lightly raining. The sun is just threatening to come out there, but so there's going to be a little bit of rain during the week, and I'm going to have to try to work around that. And this is one of those days that it was supposed to rain according to the forecast, so, you know, take it all with more than a grain of salt. So here's what a roofing screw looks like. So you've got the screw, and then you've got that, I guess it just looks like a rubber washer. I mean, it really is a rubber washer, but it serves as a seal over the hole to stop water getting in. Unfortunately, these screws are a little bit thicker than the nails were, so they'll definitely fill up that hole. That's all there is to it. You don't want to squash it too far down and sort of squeeze and deform that washer, or it may let some water in. That'll be fine, nice and snug. That is why I am replacing the screws. Let's see if I can zoom up on that. It's a rainy day. All I need is a couple more fine days to get this done, I think. And that's the reason. That's the reason I'm doing this work. By contrast, no leaks here. There was previously a rather large leak that would fall right there. And as you can see, it ain't there now. You can see where it was on the batten, the part that was getting wet. But one more thing I will show you. When it comes to joining one piece of wire netting to another, you can just kind of overlap them and be slightly sloppy about it, and that's actually fine. But what I'm doing is, so you see between each hex there's this little eye. Well, they have those eyes on the edge as well, and if you can line your pieces up, you can feed something like a nail through the eye in one piece. It's difficult with one hand, and into the eye on the other piece, and then you can, trust me, I can do it when I've got two hands. It's just that they are quite tight. You give that nail quite a few turns and you twist the two pieces together, and that's how I'm joining them together. I mean, they don't have to be fused together because they're both nailed down independently, but that's the method I'm using. My hand looks gnarly, doesn't it, from previous injuries? I'm working on the last big section of the roof now, and what a perfect day it is out there for it. Now, by section, I basically mean an area of the roof that more or less corresponds to the width of this large roll of wire mesh, because that's kind of a convenient way to do it. I lift off enough for one of those, work on that area, replace the pieces of roofing. That's about 3 pieces of roofing wide, and then when I get an opportunity, just around work and weather, I do the next section. Now, one thing that means is that, so there's the newer part of the workshop, which doesn't have mesh, it's got those plastic strips, but that's fine. And here's the end of the final full-sized section here. It just means that there's a kind of a narrow, annoying-sized distance between them. I'm not going to put another piece of mesh there. That would be more overlap than not. So what I did is I went back to the hardware store and bought a much smaller, cheaper roll of mesh that is, well, not very wide, and it will possibly fill up that whole area, or even just mostly. Even if it just mostly fills it up, that's fine. Yeah, so back to it. Okay, that was the last piece of roof cladding. I will just have a wander around the roof to see if there are any holes that I haven't put a screw in. Yep. There's one more thing to do. I don't know if you can see from here, but the cap is not sitting on the middle. I'll sit it loosely on there in case we get some rain tonight, but I don't think we will. But there's just one more thing to do before I finish this job. It's getting late in the afternoon. I'll show you tomorrow. So that final result from the underside is very satisfying. So that narrower roll of wire I see has slightly smaller hexagons, but that's okay. Don't think anyone will care. The end is also slightly more ragged because it's not tightly stretched. It's not attached to any wire on the other side, but that won't have any impact on anything. Cool, man. That's a very satisfying result. So I just need to get up on the roof tomorrow and treat the small patches of surface rust. So this is the last task before I screw everything back down again. And that is, there are these areas of surface rust. It's no good if the roof is rusted all the way through, of course, but this hasn't. It will come off, and there are a few ways you can do that. You can take a wire brush, or you can use some sandpaper. I've got a wire brush on the end of this drill because I'm a bit lazy. And you don't need to remove the appearance of rust entirely. You're just making sure that there are no loose bits that would come off after you've treated it. This is made by CRC. It's called Rust Converter. The name sounds too good to be true, but it works. I've used it previously on this channel on the legs of a drafting table that I restored, and I've already used it on one patch, and the liquid is white. It's got a slightly green tinge to it when it comes into contact with the rust though, but don't ask me exactly how it works, but it creates some kind of chemical reaction, and the rust ends up being a hard black primer. Not quite primer like a paint primer, but the red of the rust is gone and the rust stops progressing. It's really very handy stuff. There's no special method of application. You just brush it on somewhat generously. Well, you don't have to, but I do. Anywhere that there was, or still is, a small amount of rust. Doesn't really matter if I get it on areas where it's not needed. So I'll do this on all the patches that I've prepped, and then we'll come back a bit later and see how they look. So I've done all the spots, and I'm just coming back to this one. I'm not sure if it's the one I showed you earlier, but it doesn't matter. And that's kind of some is purple, some is black, hard as anything. Nothing's flaking off. Don't know what it is, but it's not rust. So it's kind of unattractive. You wouldn't want to leave it like that if it was going to be visible. But this is going to be under the top cap, so I won't worry about it. So there we are. CRC Rust Converter Liquid. It really is quite miraculous stuff. Not that it needs more, but I've got some on my brush. Okay, next step is just to screw this cap back on. The battery has run out on my impact driver. I'll go and change that out and finish the job. I'll see you shortly. And that's it. The last screw. Well, that was hard work. All done. The roof is restored. In some cases your roof will be so far gone with rust and damage that will be the cause of the leak and you'll need to replace it, but often you don't need to. Yeah, I hope whoever gets this workshop appreciates what they're getting. All that toil on my part. The sun, as you can see, has just set, or is just about to set. I can't tell because of the clouds. What an appropriate metaphor, because the sun is setting on this workshop, or at least my time in it. I hope this house sells very soon. It's a nice place, it should sell soon. Anyway, I'm panting. Yeah, roof restored. I take my hat off to roofers. It is physically demanding. I did this, sure, and I would do it on my own buildings that needed it. I'm probably a bit better than the average person who doesn't have any handyman skills, but it took a long time. I had to spread it out because of other commitments. But roofers, they get out there and they do their thing much more efficiently than me, and it is physically demanding work. I appreciate them. Alright, I'll see you soon at the new place.